Welcome everybody to Morally Abhorrent. It is match day. It's USA England. Chris Wittyngham.
Look at this shirt. What a shirt.
I dress for the occasion.
You're in the mood. You're in the mood.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the outfit doesn't really reflect the importance of the match because the win kind of got taken out with the Wales result earlier this morning. Iran deserved of all 3 points. Kind of a shock result if you ask many based on form, because that first match for Iran was a disaster. Now the U.S. has a winner-take-all match, essentially, unless Wales can summon something against England that's not expected. A winner-take-all match against Iran later in the week, but plenty still on the line. You really want to see players play well in this match, and why not win it, Chris?
Why not win it? And if you win today, you put yourself in a position to win the group, which would be an incredible result for the U.S. But I do think it's worth noting the result that happened earlier today. It was expected that Wales would beat Iran. They drew the U.S. Iran looked awful in their group opener against England, losing 6-2. But I don't know if it was a mulligan or maybe England is just that good, which might be the more terrifying proposition. But the U.S. have to figure out a way to get a result in this game. They only make one lineup change from the game against Wales, and they drew 1-1. And all week long, I've been asking myself, how are the U.S. going to do this? How are they going to get this bar full of people, a country watching this game, to get excited about soccer, to get excited about U.S. soccer? I still don't really have an answer. I guess we'll find out in about 25 minutes.
Well, they've never really had the promotional vehicle of regular season NFL games setting this amazing stage up for the U.S. Now, it's not entirely meaningless. If the U.S. get a shock result against England, they got a little bit more margin for error against Iran. Why don't you go through the scenarios for the people, Chris?
Yeah, so Iran right now are on 3 points after winning against Wales. England are on 3 points after beating Iran on the opening day. So if the U.S. were to draw today, they could potentially still, well, they couldn't draw their way in. It would require an England defeat.
Yeah, because Iran has the victory.
Correct. So the U.S., if they were to draw today and beat Iran, they're comfortably through to the group stage. If Wales gets a draw against England, maybe they top the group. But ultimately, today's result is sort of an emotional thing more than it is necessarily important to the group. That's why a lot of people were calling ahead of kickoff for the U.S. to make 5 or 6 lineup changes, rest the players who are currently sat on yellow cards, a player like Weston McKennie who's nursing an injury as well, maybe have them sit on the bench so that you can save everything for a round on Tuesday. But Greg Berhalter did not do that. He decided to go for it. So in terms of permutations, a draw could help. Really, the most important thing is that if they do lose today, it not be by some massive margin, because Iran improved their goal difference today to -2. So you don't want to be in a position where you lose 4 or 5 and you're trying to make up goal difference on the final day.
No matter what, you have a third match of consequence. But if the U.S. does somehow win this match against England, then a draw against Iran in all likelihood gets you in as well. So you do have a little bit more margin for error. You mentioned the lineups. Only one change for the U.S. Haji Wright goes from not being in the squad to starting for the U.S. A bit of a come-up for Haji Wright.
Yeah, I was just reading an article before we started about his story. He grew up in the LA Galaxy Academy and signed as a professional for the New York Cosmos. Yes, the one that Stugotz is the only thing he knows about soccer.
Shep
but
Messi.
The reinvented New York Cosmos in 2015. So he went from there to playing in Europe. He tried his luck in Germany, in Denmark. He's now playing in Turkey, where he's actually scoring some goals. But this is not a player who's really had that glamorous of a path, nor does he really have a U.S. past. He didn't feature in any of the 5 qualifying windows for the U.S. to get to this World Cup. He played in June, and after the end of that window, Greg Berhalter basically said that Haji Wright didn't take his chance to impress him. And yet, by scoring enough goals in Turkey, which is rated by the UEFA coefficient as the 12th best league in Europe, he did enough in terms of scoring goals to get 9 over the course of the season before the World Cup. The form was good enough where basically Greg Berhalter said, I'm looking for a big striker. He's the big lump that will play up top of the choices that we have available. And here he is, starting a World Cup match against England. It is a fairly remarkable story.
A lot of holes in the logic for not taking Ricardo Pepi, just based off the explanation you had for Haji.
Or even Jordan Pifak, who plays in the Bundesliga with Union Berlin, a top 4 team in one of the 4 best leagues in the world, which Haji Wright is not playing in. But Wright has his chance today. I will say, if he doesn't play well, I don't think it's necessarily his fault because the U.S. striker has not looked good since the Pepe performance in Honduras all the way back in September of last year. So this is not exactly a system that benefits strikers, and also you would expect the U.S. to not have a ton of the ball today, so the striker's going to be feeding off scraps. I can't imagine he'll be the person that decides this game.
Gio Reyna, once again.
Yeah.
Much to the frustration of several U.S. fans, I'm sure the comments are lighting up about Gio Reyna. All sorts of rumors that he's not quite healthy, Chris.
Yeah, so he participated in a pre-World Cup scrimmage that the U.S. played against a Qatari-based club team, and the reports afterwards is that he wasn't 100%. Greg Berhalter continues to say not 100%. I heard Stu Holden on the way in today saying that he is also not 100%. I wonder if he'll come off the bench. I wonder if the game will sort of dictate that. There's a lot of conflicting rumors about why Reyna isn't playing. Some say tactical, some say fitness. But either way, he's the player where if he doesn't come on, and again, if Jordan Morris comes on, I imagine a bar full of people will go, wait a second, we have to see Jordan Morris again? I rate the player a little bit more than I think your average U.S. fan does, but still, Gio Reyna is a top talent, and he's sort of the looming question mark behind this U.S. team.
The three Lions are unchanged, Chris, and that's a little bit of a surprise because they don't really need this one. They were dominant in their first match. Harry Kane picked up a knock, but Harry Kane, a superstar, will be starting for England today.
Yeah, he's the England captain, and he's sort of the player where if he's even 60%, he'll play. He's played through injury for Spurs. He's played through injury for England before. He's sort of the player that values the, I'm the leader, I have to be here. So he had a scan on his ankle, and apparently all came back well. The thing that is frightening is that this England combination of players almost works perfectly complementary of each other. You have two forwards, or three forwards really, in Kane, Raheem Sterling, and Bukayo Saka that defend well for their clubs. That's a priority for manager Gareth Southgate. And you also have that three-man midfield that looks tremendous right now, of Declan Rice in the base of it, Jude Bellingham, who, get used to that name because he's going to be one of the stars of this tournament, and Mason Mount. The defense looks solid, albeit gave up a couple of cheap ones against Iran in the 6-2. But either way, this England side looks formidable going into this game.
An embarrassment of riches off the bench as well for Gareth Southgate to go to. We're not entirely hopeful. The U.S. is a huge underdog. I do think there's an opportunity for them to exploit matchups. We got into that in previous shows. I'd really like to see a more direct approach from Greg Berhalter. I'd like to see Christian Pulisic live up to that superstar. As you can see, it's getting hyped over here. Live up to that superstar label. Really attack those central defenders for England, and maybe put one in the back of the net. And who knows? Since England doesn't really need this, we'll see how they approach the game. But I'm expecting an England performance that'll be worthy of 3 points. But hopefully both teams score and you have some positive momentum entering what will be an incredibly massive game against Iran in a couple of days.
Yeah, you want to limit the damage, as we said. You don't want to give up 4 or 5. But again, I was listening to Stuart Holden, who I think is pretty well connected into this group, and he was saying that the U.S. are going to come out pressing, that they're going to go at England early, that they're not afraid of England, that they're going to try and catch this team playing out from the back with their slow passing and eventually win the ball high up the field and try and turn it into a transition moment. I don't think the U.S. are very good in transition moments against Wales. They had more opportunities. I imagine that was the focus, is winning the ball high, maybe sort of playing a Red Bull type of style where you're sort of going at the opponent constantly with through balls and long balls, and even if you don't win it, you're winning second balls, you're pressing to win it back. It's a dangerous strategy because England has the technical quality to play through a press, but I sort of like the gung-ho mentality. We're going for it. We're not going to try and possess the ball and pass to England. You can't really, because they're that good. So what's the alternate way? It's to go. It's to be direct and press at this England side.
It should be an exciting game with some goals in store. The winner of the game gets to decide how you actually spell the word theater. So a lot on the line today. We'll be back with you. We'll be back with you at halftime here on this YouTube page. Make sure to subscribe so you get that alert once we go live. Morally Abhorrent, we'll be back with you at halftime and post-game. Chris, final prediction for the match.
England 2, United States 0.
I'm going 3-1 England.
Okay.
3-1 England, and then we'll see what happens against Iran, which looked formidable, but we'll get into that in the post-match. See you soon.